Welcome, everyone! So today we're going to bridge a really important gap, the one between the abstract world of mathematics and the very real, very high-stakes world of business. We'll be looking at how a concept you've probably seen since high school, the simple linear function, is actually the secret language spoken by successful entrepreneurs and managers. Believe me, this isn't just about drawing lines on a graph. It's about learning to make the kinds of decisions that can make or break an entire company.
Now, I want you to really think about this question for a moment. This is where the rubber meets the road. It's the first, most fundamental hurdle that every single business idea has to clear. You know, in my time, I've seen countless brilliant, innovative ideas just fail. Not because the product was bad, not at all. It's because the founders simply couldn't answer this one basic question. This is the financial bedrock of any successful venture.
So, to tackle this big question, we've got a clear roadmap for today. We're going to start with the basics, what I call the language of business. Then, we'll really dive deep into the anatomy of cost and the dynamics of revenue. Once we have those crucial building blocks in place, we'll bring them together in what's called a break-even analysis. And finally, to make sure it all sticks, we'll apply everything to a very practical startup scenario. My goal is that by the end of this, you'll have an incredibly powerful new tool in your business tool. Okay, let's start with the language of business. I want you to think of these linear functions as a way to translate your real-world operations, all the messy, complicated stuff, into a clean, clear mathematical model. A factory floor, a delivery truck, a piece of software, all these things have costs tied to them. On the flip side, a cash register, a website's Buy Now button, those represent revenue. Linear functions, well, they let us create a predictable, understandable relationship between all of it, so we can start to forecast our financial future with some real confidence. You see, at the heart of every single business, you have these two fundamental opposing forces, cost and revenue. They're like the yin and yang of your company's financial health. And every single decision a manager makes, from hiring a new employee to launching a new ad campaign to switching suppliers, is going to impact this delicate balance. Understanding how to model, how to measure, and ultimately how to manage these two forces is the absolute key to financial stability and eventually to real growth. All right, now let's dissect this idea of cost, because before we can even begin to talk about profit, we need to have a firm, almost unshakable grasp on our expenses. It's absolutely crucial that you understand that in the world of business, not all costs are created equal. They fall into two very distinct categories, and learning to tell them apart is fundamental to this entire analysis. So, on the left, we have what we call fixed costs. Just think of these as the cost of keeping the lights on. It's your monthly rent for the office, the salaries for your administrative staff, your insurance premiums. You have to pay these things every single month, whether you sell one widget or 1 million widgets. They don't change. Then, on the right, we have variable costs. These are tied directly to your production. For every new smartphone you build, you have to buy a screen, a battery, a processor. Those are variable costs. The more you produce, the higher your total variable costs are going to be. Now, here's where it gets interesting. When we combine our fixed and our variable costs, we get what's called the total cost function. And this is an incredibly powerful tool for any business leader. Imagine for a second you're a manager at a car factory. With this function, you can accurately predict your total expenses, whether you're planning to produce 1,000 cars next month or 10,000. I mean, that kind of foresight is absolutely essential for budgeting, for planning, and for making sound strategic decisions. So let's take a closer look at the formula itself. Now, listen, it's not enough to just memorize this. You have to understand what each piece really represents. You need to internalize it. Think of this as a mathematical sentence that tells the entire story of your company's cost structure. Every single variable here has a specific critical meaning, and we're about to break them all down. Let's picture this on a graph, okay? The total cost, C of X, that's our vertical y-axis. And the number of units we produce, X, that's our horizontal x-axis. Now, notice something important. The line doesn't start at 0. It starts up here at F, our total fixed costs. That's our y-intercept. It's the cost we have to pay even if we produce absolutely nothing. Then, for each individual unit X we produce, the cost climbs by V, our variable cost per unit. So V is the slope of our line. A really steep slope means you have high variable costs for each item, while a flatter slope tells you your variable costs are lower. All right, we've spent a good amount of time examining the cost side of the equation, all the money flowing out. Now let's flip the coin and look at the other side, revenue. This is the money flowing into the business. And just like we did with costs, we need a clear, predictable model to really understand our income stream and how it behaves.
The total revenue function is thankfully a bit more straightforward than the cost function. It's a direct calculation based on two key things: the price of charge for your product and how many of those products you actually sell. Now, it is important to note, for this particular model, we are making a simplifying assumption. We're assuming that every single unit is sold at the exact same price. This is a very common and necessary starting point for this kind of fundamental analysis.
So if we were to graph our revenue, you'd notice one key difference from the cost graph right away. Our total revenue, R of X, is a straight line that starts right from the origin, the point 0, 0. And this makes perfect sense, right? If you sell 0 units, you make $0 in revenue. The slope of this line is determined by P, the price per unit. So a higher price gives you a much steeper line, which just means your revenue grows a lot faster with each additional sale you make. So we've built our two models. We have one for cost and one for revenue. Now comes the most critical part of our whole analysis today. We are going to bring these two functions together. We are looking for that one single exact point where a business crosses the line from losing money to finally making money. This is the break-even point. This break-even point, it's the moment of truth for any business. If you picture it on a graph, it's the precise spot where your rising revenue line crosses your cost line. Think about it. Every single sale you make before hitting that point, you're operating at a loss. But every single sale you make after that point contributes directly to your profit. This is truly the line in the sand between financial failure and success.
So how do we find this critical point mathematically? Well, it's actually beautiful in its simplicity. We just set our revenue function equal to our cost function. By stating that our revenue must equal our cost, that Rx equals Cx, we create the equation you see right here. P times X equals V times X plus F. And just like that, we have a simple algebraic equation where the only thing we don't know is X, the number of units. And by solving for that X, we can find the exact quantity we need to sell just to cover all our costs.
Okay, that's enough theory for now. Let's make this tangible. We're going to apply everything we've just learned to a practical scenario that I'm sure many of you have probably thought about at some point. Let's imagine you want to start a simple business, a coffee cart, right here on campus. And you need to know, is this idea even financially viable?
So here's our data. After doing some research, we know we have a fixed cost, our F, of $500 a month for the cart rental and permits. Our variable cost, V, which includes the cup, the coffee, the lid, the sugar, all of it, comes out to exactly $1 per drink. And based on what other coffee shops are charging, we've decided to set our price, our P, at $3.50 per cup. And just like that, we have all the pieces of the puzzle we need for our analysis.
All right, let's walk through this together, step by step. First, we define our cost function. C of X is our variable cost of $1 times X, plus our $500 fixed cost. Simple enough. Second, we define our revenue function. R of X is just our price, $3.50, times X. Third, and this is the crucial step, we set them equal to each other. So, 350X equals 1.00X plus 500. Now it's just algebra. We subtract 1.00X from both sides to get the X's together, which leaves us with 250X equals 500.
And there it is, our answer. 200. This is our break-even point. We need to sell exactly 200 cups of coffee every single month just to cover all of our costs. You can check the math. At that point, our total revenue will be 200 times $3.50, which is $700. And our total cost, well, that'll be our $500 fixed cost plus 200 times the dollar, which is also $700. We're not making a profit yet, but crucially, we are not losing any money. So this number, 200, it's no longer just some abstract concept from a math problem. It is now your primary operational target. It's your monthly goal. This one number informs your marketing strategy, your hours of operation, your entire sales plan. Everything you do from this point forward should be focused on selling at least 200 cups. Because it's that 201st cup and every single cup after that that generates your actual take-home profit.
Now, before we wrap up, I want to shift gears and talk about some common pitfalls, because I see these same mistakes year after year, both on exams and in real-world business plans from aspiring entrepreneurs. Knowing the formula is one thing, but applying it correctly without making any small errors, well, that's what truly matters.
Recognizing these potential errors is just as important as memorizing the formulas themselves. A small mistake in your initial setup, even a single miscalculation, can lead to a wildly inaccurate break-even point. And in the real world, that could lead to you making disastrous financial decisions based on totally flawed data. Okay, let's break these down one by one because they're critical. First, misclassifying costs. This is a big one.
If a factory worker is paid per piece they produce, that's a variable cost. If they're paid a flat monthly salary, that's a fixed cost. If you mix those up, you will destroy your model's accuracy. Second, forgetting costs. It's easy to remember the big ones, like rent, but what about insurance, or software subscriptions, or website hosting fees? Every single fixed cost has to be in that calculation. Third, and this is a major one, calculation shortcuts that go wrong. A common mistake is to divide your total fixed costs by the price per unit. You cannot do that. You must divide the fixed costs by the contribution margin. Your contribution margin is your price minus your variable cost. For our coffee cart, that was $3.50 minus $1, which is $2.50. That $2.50 is how much each sale contributes to paying off those fixed costs. And finally, unrealistic pricing. The math might work out perfectly on paper, but if you set your price so high that nobody will actually buy your product, your whole break-even analysis is just, well, it's pure fantasy.
So what we've really discussed today is much more than just a set of formulas. It's a way of thinking. It's the first, most fundamental step in turning a great idea into a viable business. As you move forward in your careers, I want you to remember this. Before you get swept up in the excitement of a new venture, always come back to these questions. What are my costs? What is my revenue? And where is my break-even point? Answering these questions honestly and accurately will give you the clarity and the confidence you need to make smart, strategic business decisions. Now go out there and build something great.